The Lemp family began with Johann Adam Lemp, who arrived in St. Louis from Eschwege, Germany in 1838, building a small grocery store at what is now Delmar and 6th Street. He sold common household items, groceries, and homemade beer. A millionaire by the time of his death, Adam Lemp died on August 25, 1862, and his son, William, began a major expansion of the brewery. He purchased a 5-block area around the storage house on Cherokee above the Lagering Caves. In 1864, a new plant was complete at Cherokee Street and Condolet Avenue, continually expanding to meet the product demand. The brewery eventually covered 5 city blocks. In 1868, Jacob Feichwright, William Lemp's father-in-law, built a house a short distance from the Lemp Brewery. In 1876, William Lemp purchased it for his family, utilizing it as both a residence and an auxiliary office. While the home was already impressive, Lemp immediately began renovating, expanding the 33-room house into a Victorian showplace.
The light golden lager was a welcome change from the darker beers that were sold at the time. The recipe, handed down by his father, was so popular that just 2 years later, he gave up the grocery store and built a small brewery in 1840 at a point close to where the Gateway Arch stands today. The beer company outgrew the brewery, which led to finding the use of the limestone cave. In 1870, they controlled the beer market and maintained control until the Prohibition.
In the midst of his success, the Lemp family experienced the first of many tragedies when Frederick Lemp, William Sr.'s favorite son and heir apparent, died in 1901 at the age of 28. Frederick, who had never been in extremely good health, died of heart failure. The devastated William Lemp was never the same, beginning a slow withdrawal. He was rarely seen in public after his son's death. On January 1st, 1904, William's closest friend, Frederick Pabst, also died, leaving William indifferent to the details of running the brewery, though he still strived at the office each day. He was nervous and unsettled. His physical and mental health began to decline. On February 13, 1908, he shot himself in the head with a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson.
From the mansion, a tunnel was built from the basement through the caves to the brewery. When mechanical refrigeration became available, parts of the cave were converted for other purposes, including a natural auditorium and a theater. This underground oasis would later spawn a large concrete swimming pool with hot water piped in from the brewery boiling house, and a bowling alley. At one time, the theater was accessible by the way of a spiral staircase from Cherokee Street. By the middle 1890s, the Lemp Brewery gained a national presence after introducing the popular Falstaff beer, which is still brewed today by another company. The Lemp Western Brewery was the first brewery to establish coast-to-coast distribution of its beer. At the same time, he was building his own business empire. William Sir also helped Pabst, Anheuser, and Busch get started.
In November 1904, William Lemp Jr. took over as the new president of William J. Lemp Brewing Company. William Lemp Jr. was a player. He got tired of Lily and gave her $1,000 a day to spend, and if she didn't, he told her she would never see another penny of that money. In the evenings, he would hold huge parties in the cave with his friends. There was free beer, and they promoted prostitution. After a while, the partying caught up to him, and he fathered a son from another woman. It isn't known if the boy belonged to one of many of his prostitutes or a house servant. The boy was born with Down syndrome and was locked in the attic and sometimes servant quarters. He was known more famously as the monkey-faced boy. William Jr. tired of his trophy wife and filed for divorce in 1908. Why she didn't make this step with all his ongoings could be nothing more than a sign of the times. The court proceedings surrounding the divorce became a major St. Louis scandal, and all 4 St. Louis newspapers devoting extensive front-page coverage to the messy affair. The trial opened in February 1909 to crowds that flocked to the courthouse each day to witness the drama of tales of violence, drunkenness, atheism, and cruelty.
Lillian was a beautiful woman who came from a wealthy family herself. She and William Lemp Jr. had married in 1899, and William Jr. Lemp, III was born on September 26, 1900. Before long, Lillian became known as the Lavender Lady because of her fondness of the color. In addition to her lavender attire and accessories, she went so far as to have her carriage horse's harness dyed lavender. Virtually ignoring William's decent activities, Lillian almost lost custody of William Lemp III because of a photograph that was presented at the trial that showed her smoking a cigarette. In the end, she retained custody of their son, but soon retired from public eye. The only time that she was ever seen wearing anything other than lavender was on the final day of her divorce proceedings, when she appeared entirely in black before the judge. With the divorce, Will's troubles had only just begun. In 1906, 9 of the large breweries in the St. Louis area had combined to form the Independent Brewers Company, creating fierce competition that the Lemp Brewery had never faced. In the same year, Will's mother died by cancer on April 16th. Though the brewery's fortunes were continually declining, the Lemp Mansion was entirely remodeled in 1911 and partially converted into offices for the brewery. At the same time, William allowed the company's equipment to deteriorate without keeping abreast of industrial innovations. By World War I, the brewery was just barely limping along. William soon built a country home on the Merrimack River, to which he was increasingly retreated, and in 1915 he married for a second time to Ellie Lindbergh, widowed daughter of the late St. Louis brewery Caspar Cohager. Then Prohibition came along in 1919. The individual family members were already wealthy, so there was little incentive to keep the brewery afloat. For a time, Will hoped that Congress would repeal Prohibition, but finally gave up and closed the Lemp plant down without notice. The workers learned of the closing when they came into work one day and found the door shut and the gates locked.
Edwin was the last surviving male heir of Johann Adam Lemp, founder of what was to become the Lemp Brewery. His death ended the male line of Lemps in the Lemp family name. In 1970, Edwin Lemp died of natural causes at an age of 90. After Charles's death, the only surviving son of William Sr. was Edwin Lemp. Edwin, the youngest son, had worked in the brewery until 1913 when he retired at Crogwald, the estate he had built overlooking the Merrimack River in 1911. Cragwald in western Kirkwood had an observation tower, 2 servants' houses, and the collection of birds, antelope, sheep, yaks, buffalo, and other animals. After his retirement, Edwin dedicated himself to many charitable causes, primarily the St. Louis Zoo. In 1970, Edwin died at the age of 90. His final order to his caretaker was to destroy his art collection and the family heirlooms.
There have been lots of ghost sightings in the Lemp Mansion since all the murders have taken place. Soon, William Jr. began acting more like his father had in the last days. He became increasingly nervous and erratic, shunning public life and often complaining of ill health. On December 29, 1922, William shot himself in the heart with a .38 caliber revolver in the same very building where his father had died 18 years before. William II took his life on the main level of the mansion, just inside the entrance to the left. At the time of his death, this room served as his office. He was interred in the family mausoleum at Bellefontaine Cemetery, in the crypt just above his sister Elsa. Is there life after death? For we might not ever find this answer, there is always possibility.